Happy Global Running Day. Woo, boy. Tide is high. Here's a tip for you. If you're gonna run on the beach, make sure the tide isn't high, because when the tide is high, it's soft sand. Oop, got some folks coming up. Hi. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to do a race in person. I'm really excited for people that are able to do races. It was really fun to hear about some races that people have done, to read about some race experiences that people have had already. What I do know is that even though it may take longer for races to happen, my local Galloway program is planning on starting group runs, if not this Saturday, next Saturday, and I will be there. I am excited about running in a group. I miss my people. We're gonna do it safely. We're gonna make sure that we don't increase the spread of this virus, but we haven't let it dampen our spirits. And on Global Running Day, it's not just about races. It's about being runners. No matter how much you're running, no matter how fast you're running, no matter how far you're running, as long as you keep running and know you're a runner, you're good. So, today is Global Running Day. That's cool. Last year on Global Running Day, I had a blog article that Tailwind published talking about how to carry their hydration during a marathon and some other things. Talked about the Galloway method and all that. This is a very different Global Running Day right now, isn't it? And I thought what it might be good to talk to you guys about is how to run today, how to run now. And there are some new guidelines that the Road Runners Club of America has come out with about running in groups. And some of it's applicable when you're running on your own. One of the things definitely applicable is having some sort of a face covering. You don't have to run with it all the time. If you are running on your own, certainly you don't have to. But I'm coming up on my downtown area, and there have been a lot more people out the last few days. So I want to be able to pull this up kind of like that, just to make people more comfortable. You've got a mask that you can carry with you, do the same thing. There's some other good guidelines, and I'll talk about those after my run. Well, it's another week and the world has changed yet again. Not always in a good way. There's a lot of negative stuff going on right now, but there's also some positive change that's happening. One of the positive changes that affects us right now is that we can start going on group runs again. That's right, in most parts of the country, we have bans for group size that are being changed. Here in Florida, where I live, we can now meet in groups as large as 50. Now, we still have to be safe in how we do it, especially if we're going to be exercising together, but at least now we can get together with our buddies. So what are some of the ways that we can stay in our groups for our runs, but do it in a safe way? Well, that's a good question because it depends on who you ask, right? So who do I ask? I ask the Road Runners Club of America. RRCA is an organization that certifies coaches all over the country. They do a great job of making sure the people that you trust as your coach know what they're talking about and have some guidelines to keep you safe. I've gotten a coaching certification through RRCA, and I've actually worked with the RRCA to develop some of their courses. So I took a look at the RRCA's guidelines, and yes, they have put together some clear guidelines to help us with our group runs. So let's take a look and see what they are telling us we should be doing. In terms of gathering in groups, they're asking people not to gather until local guidelines allow for group gathering. Well, that makes sense. They're also making sure that when you gather in a group, you don't go someplace that's going to be blocking bathrooms or blocking the entrances to businesses. It's a good idea to make sure that wherever you're standing, you're not making other people who aren't part of your group uncomfortable in terms of keeping them from getting where they need to go. The next thing that we need to pay attention to is, as we're gathering, we probably should be using masks and social distancing. Masks are just a great thing to have right now. They're out there everywhere. I've got this one here. I've got another one that's in blue that's a Galloway mask. But you can use your favorite mask or a buff or an Ultra Band or whatever you have to cover your mouth and your nose. And that's to protect other people in case you have COVID-19 but you don't realize it, or anything else that you may have. If you are wearing that, that could keep you from spreading, or at least minimize the spread from you. Once you start running, obviously, if you're running alone, you don't need to wear those things. But if you're running in a group, you should still have them with you, because your group might run past some other runners. They might run through a downtown area where there's a gathering, or during your run, you might have to walk into a business to use the restroom, or to refill a water bottle, or to buy a Gatorade or whatever else. Or you might be going someplace for coffee afterwards, and those places may have regulations about what you have to wear when you go up to the counter. So carry a mask with you and be prepared to put it on. If you are not comfortable having a mask on ever, you probably should not be running in a group right now. I'm not saying you need to run with the mask on. I did a test with that, and I'll tell you what, it was hard. I'll show you the results of my run later and show you what I looked like when I was doing it. But I will say it was very hard, and I don't intend to go on many runs wearing a mask, at least not if I'm going to try to push the pace at all. The other thing that the RRCA has done is give us an idea about what we should look like as a group when we're running. There's a way that you can still maintain social distance during a run. They're recommending 8 feet, which is a good split between the 6 feet we're hearing we should be giving when we're just standing around or when we're inside a business, and the 12 to 20 feet that some people were saying might be necessary if you were exercising. It appears now that this disease is not spread very easily outside. So a good rule of thumb is about 8 feet, but a nice way to remember that is what I heard one person say, which is use the double Ds. Double the distance and don't draft. In other words, if you would normally be 6 feet away from someone inside, if you're running behind them, double that distance to 12 feet and don't draft. Don't run directly behind someone within that range. So if you run in 2 lines and you've got 8 to 12 feet between people, you're good to go. And if you've got 6 feet apart from the person that's to your side, you're good to go. Be aware that as you're running down the road, there may be other people coming in the other direction, and sometimes you might have to duck in behind people. Doing that for a short period of time is not going to be a problem. One of the things that I came across said that you'd probably have to stay inside the draft of another runner for 5 continuous minutes in order to get the exposure to the COVID-19 virus to contract it from someone. Now, is that to say that you're perfectly safe? No, we're just talking about trying to minimize the risk. It's great that we're able to run together as a group, but it's still fine to run on your own, and it's fine if your friends don't want to run on their own. So if that's the case, make sure you're reaching out to your friends and let them know you're ready to run with them when they're comfortable running with you. And until then, you'll keep calling them up, you'll keep emailing them, you'll keep having Zooms, and you'll keep talking to them about how great it is that we can still be runners. Now, obviously, racing that's a different story. And how we're going to be able to race in the future, especially in the near future, is hard to predict. I will say I got some great news from Beverly, one of our customized runners this week, who did a 5K this last week. The way it worked is she had to sign up for a particular time. She showed up at that time, and they sent the runners off in small groups with a few minutes in between. And it took a long time to get through the 5K, but it worked, and the results were tabulated later on. I woke up this morning to find out that there is a race in my area that's going to follow similar guidelines, only it's going to be spread out over about 3 different days. So when I go to sign up, I can sign up to be there for a certain time in a 3-day period. I show up at the race time. They ask me not to show up until it's time for my wave. My wave is only going to be about 10 people, and they're going to be putting 10 minutes between waves here. We'll head off on the 5K. There will not be any water tables. There won't be any volunteers out on the course. They're not even going to have police protection or the course blocked off. So you have to be really careful about it. But it will be a timed course. We'll finish the route. We'll get an official time. And at the end of those 3 days, they'll tabulate all of the results. The best news about that particular race, even though it's a strange thing, is that not only is the running store that's putting it on giving all of the money to charity, they're actually matching what is raised on the entry fees. So every $10 entry fee that is paid, that store is matching another $10, and it's all going to a local charity. I think that's awesome, and I see a lot of great things happening along those lines as runners are just anxious to get out and do some races. Will the big races come back? I don't know. But I do know that running is still an important part of my life, and I know that it's an important part of your life, or you wouldn't be watching this right now. Thank you for letting me share a few minutes with you. If you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do to help you out, email me, chris@jeffgalloway.com, or contact me through the jeffgalloway.com website. Take care and keep running. All right, so this is called the Ultra Spout, and it's pretty darn cool. There's this little foot here that extends down so that it doesn't allow the cooler to push in too far. There's a little locking ring here that can pull out to keep it from dispensing any water when you're transporting it. And then when it's all set, all you have to do is take your mug or your cup, press in, and it fills it right up. You don't have to touch the spout, and you get all the water. Terrific. Okay, so this is going to be a double test. First, can you hear me as I'm talking through this mask? And second, what is it like to run 5 miles in Florida in a mask? I'll tell you in a minute. Well, it'll be a minute for you. Actually, it'll just be a second. I'll tell you right now. Well, that was hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I did the entire 5 miles. I didn't take the mask off once. Even when I got a phone call in the middle of it and I had to carry on a conversation for about the last 2 miles of it, I still kept the mask on and they could hear me through the mask when I was talking on the phone. So that's a good thing. It's actually not this mask. It was the blue one, which I've already tossed in the dirty pile. I would say I could have held a long run pace, 2 minutes per mile slower than marathon pace, for a good long ways. Would I have wanted to run a marathon with that mask on? No, I would not. If that's the only way I'm going to get to run a marathon again, will I do it? Yeah, you bet. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think that we won't have to do that in races, but it was doable. I think especially if I were just putting it on as I'm running past some people and then taking it off, it's very pleasant. Using the Ultra Band that I was using from Squoosh before was certainly easier, but this was doable and fashionable, so I'm not going to complain too much. I encourage you, please, to do this. Even if you don't think it's necessary for yourself, it's going to make the people that you're running past feel more comfortable, especially if you are running through a downtown area or a crowded beach like I was doing. So, keep it up. Oh, if I throw it from here, it'll never reach you. I'm a runner, not a basketball player. Take care.